This
Jeff Bennett
conference
just
will
showed up.
now be recorded.
And we're waiting for name on one other person. So what I'll do is I call the meeting of the Montechusett Planning Commission for Thursday, September 8th, 2022 to order at 7:02. What I'll do is just read off the list of attendees, staff and members. And if I miss anybody, please speak up at the end. We have Kayla Kress, Lynn Butland, Amanda Reed, Brad Harris, Doug Thornton, George Cahale, Guy Corbacero, Jeff Bennett, John Telepiak, Karen Chapman, Linda Quinlivan, Peter Cunningham, Rick Ward, R. Merrill, Robert Schwartz, and Roger Hoyt. And I got Peter in here, and I have Robert. Okay, very good. So that's all the attendees of the meeting, both staff, guests, and members. And we do have a quorum.
Could I do an
Guy?
introduction?
Roger.
Yes,
I
I
would just
want to, the last person who joined is Ashburnham's new town planner, Rebecca Merrill.
Oh,
Yes.
Rebecca Merrill. Okay, very good. Welcome,
Yes.
Rebecca.
I did only type R. Merrill, so he
Oh,
was just reading
yes.
what was there.
She fills
Okay,
a
so-
position that has been vacant for at least 12 years.
Okay, very good. So she's
Warm
your
welcome
alternate.
to her.
Okay,
Thank you.
welcome. Welcome. Does anybody, I don't have any announcement. Does anybody have any announcements for anything except that doesn't deal with what we're dealing with tonight? Not hearing on
I have none.
anything. I'll move on to our second item, approval of August 4th, 2022 MRPC minutes. Actually, what they're on the website. So if you had a chance to review them, I did a quick review, don't see any problems. If you want to go and take a look, I'll hold up. Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes as printed.
This is John Tlebsiak. I'll make a motion. We accept the minutes.
Okay, very good, John. Do I have a
Bob
second?
Schwartz, second.
Okay, very good. Anybody have any discussion or questions on that? Not hearing any, I'll call the roll. Lynn Butland,
Aye.
Amanda Reed,
Aye.
Doug Thornton.
I'll abstain.
Okay, yes, that's right. Guy Corbacero, myself, aye. Jeff Bennett,
Yes.
John Telepiak,
Aye.
Peter Cunningham.
Yeah, I'll abstain because I wasn't at the meeting, so.
Okay, very good. Robert Schwartz
Aye.
and Roger Hoyt.
Aye.
Okay, the minutes are accepted with 2 abstentions. Next item on the agenda is the cash schedule for August 2022. That was emailed out to you, I think yesterday. Since we don't have our treasurer here today, would you like to take this, Linda? Quinlivan.
Sure, no problem.
Okay, great.
Okay, so the opening balances from July 31st, 2022. The total, it was $821,768.07. Total of cash receipts and transfers for the month equaled $373,764.47. And the total cash on hand was $1,195,532.54. The disbursements were $329,689.72, which leaves a balance of $865,842.82. I just wanted to mention that after last last month's meeting, they had suggested that we transfer some of the money out of our checking account and into our MMDT account, which we did. I transferred 215,000 in there. So that's looking pretty good. The balance in there now is $361,748.44. So that's that.
Great, thank you, Linda. Does anybody have any questions of Linda? Okay, not hearing any, I will entertain a motion to accept the cash schedule as presented, subject to audit.
John Telepsiak, I would motion to accept them as presented.
Peter Cunningham, second.
Okay, John first and Peter second. Any other questions for Linda or anybody else in this regards? Not hearing any, I'll call the roll. Lynn Butland,
Aye.
Amanda Reed,
Aye.
Doug Thornton,
Abstain.
Guy Corpusaro votes aye. Jeff Bennett,
Yes.
John Telepiak,
Aye.
Peter Cunningham,
Cunningham, aye.
Robert Schwartz,
Aye.
and Roger Hoyt.
Aye.
And the cash schedule is accepted unanimously. So we will move on to our third item. Third item going on here is guest announcements, and that would be George Cahill. George, do you have anything?
Mr. Chairman, I don't have any announcement at this time. No,
Okay,
thank you.
Thank you, George. And do we have any other guests that would like to make an announcement? I guess Ms. Merrill is not a guest. You're an alternate member, if I'm not mistaken. So if no comments, I'll move on to administrative matters.
I have no
Uh,
comments. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Now, as I don't know if everybody knows if they got the email that Glenn is on vacation this week. So on administrative matters, I think Brad Harris will take that. Brad, is that correct?
Yes, it is. Thank you. I'll just go over briefly. Item 5.1, it's called How Can Small Businesses Win the War on Talent? It was a webinar put on by the Employers Association of Northeast that Glenn attended. And basically, he states in his write-up of the webinar that for about 2 decades ago, when the MRPC used to advertise for positions, we would receive anywhere from 2 to 3 dozen applications. But since the time of just before the pandemic and since the pandemic, when we've advertised, we've been lucky to get maybe 1 or maybe even 2 resumes in. So we went to this regarding with the notion that searching for employees has become increasingly difficult, especially during the pandemic. And so to illustrate this, he has said that the MRPC received no interest in the ARPA grants director position that we advertised in late 2021 to early 2022. So we went to this to try and find out what some of the issues are, and maybe how can we address this. And his thoughts are that basically the MRPC needs to find enough candidates to interview for planning positions, and to change that, to determine what the changes have taken place in the pool of available labor and how to retain and acquire talented professionals in the future. During the resulting economic decline, we've witnessed what they've called the Great Retirement, the Great Resignation, and the Great Reshuffle, where we're losing a lot of the baby boomers due to retirements, and a so-called brain drain has occurred in virtually every profession. According to presenters at this webinar, there are about 90 million people born into the baby boomer generation, and those numbers are declining in successive generations. Some additional information that was shared by the instructor of the webinar included average salaries have risen 5% since COVID. The CPI has gone up by about 8%. Baby boomers that retired are boomeranging back into more jobs, and then more may be needed. There's been an exodus of inhabitants out of New England, moving south and west. People have been leaving the Northeast, Illinois, Ohio, and Michigan due to the climate and the abundance of the opportunities elsewhere. And employees are looking for a, quote, total employee experience. So he thinks in the future, the MRPC must consider the perception of the potential worker while working for the MRPC. So given all the above, the employees need to have a sharply defined employee value proposition when attracting new talent and retaining employees. MRPC needs to employ some of these tactics that are implemented by the larger employers, such as providing great employee experiences, developing good managers, and enabling innovation. So this is information that he's bringing forward that we'll have trying to incorporate into MRPC's recruiting practices in the future, so that we can get more candidates in to serve in the with the commission on a planning basis. He's also provided, after this in the handout, information from Statistica.com. It's called From Great Resignation to Great Regret. It's got some more information related to the subject matter of the Great Reshuffle, the Great Resignation, and so on. So this is what he had in the webinar he's gone to, and the information he's presenting. Second item is there was a comment mailed into the MRPC based upon someone seeing the agenda posted on our website, and it's a separate handout of that, and I'll just quickly read through what the person indicated in their comment. He said, it starts off, "Hello, I saw your agenda on the City of Fitchburg's website with the following comment. Quote, exodus of inhabitants out of New England, moving south and west. People have been leaving the Northeast, Illinois, Ohio, and Michigan due to the climate and the abundance of opportunities elsewhere." End quote. I don't know if you allow public comments to be read at your meetings, but so here it is mine. It's not the climate, because New Hampshire is gaining in population. It's not the opportunities elsewhere, because there are opportunities everywhere in this strong labor market. It's the COVIDism. States that didn't shut down schools and businesses, impose curfews, force people to wear masks, force them to take COVID tests when healthy and asymptomatic, and force them to get vaccines they didn't want, are gaining in population. You should be advocating for the removal of the authoritarians in public bodies like the Fitchburg Board of Health that brought these ineffective, unscientific, unconstitutional mandates into play. If they did it before, they will do it again, and it was all for nothing, because everyone got COVID anyways, and will again and again over their lifetimes. COVID will outlive the human species. Why does the public health leaders in other states realize this? Massachusetts needs to get real and stop the useless virtue signaling. So that was one gentleman's comment. I don't have his name, but that's his comment in response to the information that was presented in the webinar that Glenn attended. That's what I have for that part of the agenda, that webinar. Any questions?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, Brad, what in there they mentioned total employee experience. Do we know what that means?
I don't have the breakdown on exactly what they're talking about.
I'm just wondering what they're talking about.
I'm sure it has to do with the working space, the working environment,
Okay.
the time frame you allow them to work, the days of the week, things like the benefits that are offered to them. So it goes, I would think it goes to that, from the work environment to the benefits to the ability to take time off and so on. That'd be my perception of the work experience.
Great, thank you.
Okay. If you'd like, Mr. Chair, I can move on to 5.2, another informational from Glenn. It's entitled Sexual Harassment and Discrimination Prevention Training. It was a webinar held by Employers Association of Northeast and was attended by Holly Ford, Administrative Manager, and Mr. Eaton. Topics covered included sexual harassment laws, types of sexual harassment, prevention, and responsibilities. The biggest takeaways for Glenn were people are still uncomfortable reporting harassment. 60% of workplace misconduct gets unreported. All complaints must be taken seriously. If possible, provide both male and female harassment complaint officers. In MRPC's case, we'll officially designate the executive director, male, and the administrative manager, female, as the complaint officers, and notify all employees via email memo within a few business days of this webinar. He also found out that an employer is liable for sexual harassment if the firm knew or should have known about the harassment and failed to take immediate and appropriate corrective action. Supervisors can be held personally liable for engaging in harassing acts. And the final one, none of the above, no one is above the law. So this will be reflected in some of the upcoming or any changes in the personnel regulations. And it's just a reinforcement of what we understand to be the sexual harassment laws as they apply to our commission. And that's the information on that webinar. If there are any questions, I'll try and answer.
I'm not seeing any questions. Why don't you move on to 5.3, Brad?
Okay, 5.3 is an amendment to the budget line item entitled 56-200 Conferences, Meetings, Training. The report. The MRPC recognizes the need to train its employees in a variety of areas, not the least of which are procurement, human resources, and apps such as Microsoft Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and possible other areas. So he's outlined the three major areas: procurement. Existing employees have had very little procurement training. Executive Director recommends that many employees, especially managers and new hires, need training in this area. Bluntly, this type of training is not provided to college students. Also, we have identified at least one employee who will receive a significant amount of formal training from the Mass Office of the Inspector General, so that he may obtain his procurement certification. In the human resources, Mr. Eaton and Ms. Ford have been attending HR training webinars offered by the Employers Association of the Northeast. MRPC will require department heads to take HR training this fiscal. Microsoft apps. Recently, Mr. Eaton and Ms. Kayla Kress, GIS and IT analyst, attended a Microsoft Excel Level 2 training session. Both are planning on attending Level 3 training. Additional employees may take training voluntarily or will be required to do so by management. And the original balance of the conferences, meeting, trainings line item, number 56-200, was $2,000. As of July 1st, 2022, the current balance is $1,204. Boosting this line item will give management the flexibility to provide online or in-person educational sessions. So the resolution for your consideration: be resolved that the Montechusett Regional Planning Commission hereby approves of the proposed amendment to reduce the equipment furniture purchase line item number 57002 from its original budget of $11,000 to $6,000 and move $5,000 into the conferences, meetings, trainings line item number 56200, which will increase the conference, meetings, training line item from its original budget of $2,000 to a new budget of $7,000, not including expenditures made since the beginning of fiscal year 23, to pay for a variety of employee training sessions as identified in the above report.
Okay, thank you, Brad. Any questions of Brad in regards to this? Not hearing any. I just want to make a comment that increased training goes back to just another perk to keep employees. That would go back to the first thing he talked about employee retention. So this is just another stone in the walkway to retain employees. Any other questions?
Yeah, question, Mr. Chairman, are we being asked to offer this resolution, or do you want any action on this or not, Brad?
Yeah, it's being asked as an amendment to the budget to allow us to go ahead and make this change in the reallocation of funds. It's not a change in the overall budget. It's just moving one line item to another.
Understood, but do you need us to vote on that tonight?
Yes.
Okay. With the chair's permission, then I would offer a motion that we adopt the resolution as presented.
Okay, very good. Do I have a second?
Bob Schwartz, second.
Thank you, Bob. Any other questions before I call the roll? Not hearing any. I'll call the roll. Lynn Butland,
Aye.
Amanda Weed,
Aye.
Doug Thornton,
Aye.
Guy Corbett, the chair votes aye. Jeff Bennett,
Yes.
John Telepiak,
Aye.
Peter Cunningham,
Yeah, Cunningham, aye.
Robert Schwartz,
Aye.
and Roger Hoyt.
Aye.
And I don't think I missed anybody that was allowed to vote, so that is passed unanimously. So let's move on to 5.4, lunch and learn.
Okay, under this one, this is a highlight something that Glenn is considering doing and a upcoming survey for everybody. So one of the MRPC sibling agencies, the Central Mass Regional Planning Commission out of Worcester, provides a free lunch and learn virtual workshop series on Wednesdays at noon. Experts are brought into the virtual room to discuss topics of importance to local officials. Recently, several planners and local officials in the Montezuma region have asked the MRPC to consider replicating this program. So a very brief survey to a variety of local officials will be created, issued, and the results will be analyzed prior to the MRPC's implementation of the service. Results will be shared with the commissioners no later than the next meeting to be held at 7 p.m. Thursday, October 7th. Draft survey questions have been drafted and will be as follows. Number 1, the MRPC offered a lunch and learn series. On which days of the week from noon through 1 p.m. would you be able to attend? And again, this is a multiple choice to check off as many as they wish. And you can see them all listed here from the first Tuesday of the month all the way down to the fourth Thursday of the month. Question 2 is what topics would draw you and your fellow local officials into the virtual meeting room? Again, he provides a number of options and asks you to check as many as people wish. Question number 3, would you be able to act as an expert on a topic? It's a yes or no type question to see who might be able to help us out on this program. And number 4, if you answered yes to question 3, what topics would you like to present to your peers? Additional questions may be asked. However, the surveys intend to be very short to maximize the number of responses received. So again, he'll be sending this out to local officials and lists and people we know to try and get some feedback, and to also the commissioners to get some feedback on what would be appropriate times and dates and topics to cover. So that's for informational purposes for the commissioners.
Quick question, does he plan to supply the lunch or is this bring your own?
That I'm not sure. I'm not sure how it works at CMRPC.
Well,
But, I think if we can afford in the budget,
If
maybe.
it's virtual, you're making your own.
Make your own lunch, I think, yeah.
I know.
True,
I thought
yeah,
this was
yeah,
virtual.
We have a virtual lunch, but
That's true, I'm sorry I missed that. Never mind.
And you got me on that one too.
Okay, very good. So that's just an informative. Any questions? Otherwise, we'll move on to 5.5. U.S. Health and Human Service Secretary Xavier Becerra and Congressman James McGovern event concerning hunger, health, and nutrition held at the MRCPC on Friday, September 2nd. Will you be speaking to this, Brad, or I was
Yes, I will.
not able to attend?
Just briefly, as Guy mentioned in the intro, there was a conference, White House. It was a prelude to the White House Conference on Hunger, Nutrition, and Health. It's to be held later in September. So some local organizations met with federal officials this past Friday to discuss an end to food insecurity and the continued effort to improve the health and well-being of the U.S. It was a closed and secure event, which included the guests of the Secretary of Health and Human Services, Xavier Becerra, and well as Congressman McGovern and the MRPC's partner, Growing Places Incorporated. The MRPC atrium served as the venue for this event. There's an accompanying news article from the Sentinel Enterprise along with some photos regarding the event. So for more information, you can also check out a link on an event found at the health.gov regarding the White House Conference Hunger Conference coming up. So this is just a brief information. You'll see some photos of the secretary, attendees, and Representative McGovern, as well as the full Sentinel Enterprise article by Shane Rhodes. And that's all I have on that.
Brad, was
Yes.
there a decent attendance there?
I was not there, but I understand it was fairly well attended. I'm not sure how long the event ran, but I was told there was a good number of people there that were invited specifically.
Good. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Now we go into department updates. GIS, I don't know. I don't see Jason here. Kayla, do you have anything from GIS?
Nothing in particular.
Okay, any questions of GIS? If not, we'll move on to planning and development. Karen, do you have anything to speak to this?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So Brownfields update, I attended the Brownfields conference a couple weeks ago in Oklahoma City, and it was only 104 degrees. So it was, no, it was a good conference. In the handout, I have a summary, which I am not going to read. You're welcome. And so they had a lot of focus on alternative financing for brownfields redevelopment. They had a good focus on rural communities. So I tried to attend those sessions and I summarized them in my report. Also in brownfields, so our current brownfields grant ends at the end of this month. And we will be applying for a new grant in the amount of $500,000 to do more assessments and hopefully some cleanup planning as well. That application comes out mid-September and it will be due right before Thanksgiving. And I think I mentioned last month that we received a technical assistance grant from UConn to help us with our application. And so they're doing some research on some properties. So if any of you know of any properties that we could put in our application, because we've been told that being general and saying we're a regional assessment, we're a regional application, and we only want to say that, they prefer that we point out particular properties because we would get more points for that because it shows that we're prioritizing properties. And by putting a property address on there, it doesn't marry you to the grant. It doesn't mean you have to do something with it, but it's better to have some properties in there. So if any of you have any properties that you can think of off the top of your head, or you think about it after you go home, email me or whatever, and we can have UConn do research on the property and we'll have more information for the application. So if any of you have any of that information. Any question on brownfields before I move on? I don't see any. Okay. MBTA communities update. I sent you all an email to notify you that the new final guidelines came out August 10th. Today there was a webinar sponsored by the Executive Office of Housing and Economic Development, and they went over the final guidelines. It was just a slideshow. We couldn't ask any questions, so it was just a review of the final guidelines. There will be a lot of technical assistance opportunities for communities. The good thing about the final guidelines is that they made exceptions for small and rural communities so that your maximum capacity is only 5% of your housing stock. So most of the communities in our region have significantly reduced from 750 maximum capacity down to as low as 61 in Ashby. So that's good news for us. So any of you who have DLTA projects with us, that is MBTA communities, we'll be starting that up again. The state DHCD is coming out with a compliance tool that they hope to have by the end of fall. So it's kind of hard to move forward with that part of it, but we can start looking at properties in those communities that may be useful for the multifamily zoning. Excuse me. Mass Housing Partnership, which is it's a sister agency of DHCD. They provide technical assistance on housing. They have asked MRPC if they would like to be on their consultant list, and so they're going to provide technical assistance to communities who apply to them. And as a consultant, we would be paired with a community and do it would be like a 3 to 4 month contract to assist the communities, and we would be paid $20,000 to $25,000 per applicant. And so they haven't decided yet if we would only be paired with communities in our region or if it would be, equally divided amongst the RPAs. But we said yes, we would like to be on that list. So hopefully we'll get some of those. And if any of you need to apply for that, it will be available soon, hopefully October. And MHP, which is Mass Housing Partnership, will train us, including Kayla and Jason, on the compliance model, which has a lot of GIS in it. So any questions on MBTA? I don't
Just
see.
one, could we apply for technical assistance to have MRPC help us with maybe something like a housing element?
You mean like a housing production plan or a housing
Yes,
element?
as part of the 10-year plan, master plan.
Yes.
Okay.
Then community compact program update. The community compact came out again from Lieutenant Governor Polito. I believe all the communities got a letter from her. We put a letter in the packet to say, so we took the list of best practices, and Glenn and I went through it, and we deleted the things that we didn't think MRPC had the capacity to do. So the list that's attached to the memo is what we feel that we have the capacity to do. So if anybody wants to go for those community compact grants, we would be available to assist you. Again, I won't read that whole thing, 14 pages. So any questions on community compact?
But Karen, that list is on the handouts,
Yes.
correct?
Yes, it's in the folder. All of these things that I'm talking about are in the folder. Yeah, so the final section 3, there's the community compact, and then there's the final section 3A guidelines. The bottom one is the MBTA final guidelines, and then there's the report on the Brownfields conference, and then as always, the top of the list is the copy of the current grant opportunities that's updated. So you can get all of those things in there. And if you have any questions, just email me, call me, whatever. And then I have one last thing, Mr. Chair, if you don't mind.
Not at all, Karen.
I sent out an email to everyone about the CPTC training, and a few of you have responded, so thank you. But if you haven't responded about training opportunities that you'd like us to host, please respond. And that's all I have. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Karen. Okay, very good. We'll move on to 6.3, transit and transportation. I think you have a resolution here, Brad?
Yes, I do. Basically, the report is the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, or the BIL as it's called, established a new Safe Streets and Roads for All discretionary program that will provide $5 to $6 billion in grants over the next 5 years. The funding supports regional, local, and tribal initiatives through grants to prevent roadway deaths and serious injuries. The program supports the US DOT's National Roadway Safety Strategy and a goal of 0 deaths and serious injuries on the nation's highways. So the MRPC is looking to submit an application for development of what's called a safety action plan for the region. The successful development of an action plan will allow various entities, including our cities and towns, to apply for implementation grants in future years of this program. So approximately $1 billion is available in this year's program. So far, we have surveyed communities to determine who might be interested in being part of this application. To date, we've received positive responses from 15 of our communities, as well as from the Montezuma Regional Transit Authority, or MART. So staff will be putting the application together online as required in order to meet the September 15th deadline. The Notice of Funding Opportunity, or NOFO, is also available on the MRPC website for download under announcements. So we'll be putting this application together, and as I said, we've got 15 communities who have signed on, as well as MART. Everyone representing a community here tonight, except for Groton and Phillipson, have responded positively. So we'll be contacting those communities again to see if we can get them to formally sign on to the program. We're looking at a preliminary budget right now of asking for about $750,000 from the SS4A, or the Safe Streets and Roads for All program. There is a 20% match requirement for this program, so we need to match it with about $187,500. So all told, we'll be looking for $937,500 for this grant program. We anticipate it's going to take anywhere from 24 to 30 months to complete. We plan on hiring an outside consultant to do the work. We'll need to establish sort of a working committee to assist the consultant as we go along. They'll have to go out and meet also with as many communities as they can and provide a lot of public input opportunities for everybody, as well as the identified underserved populations in our region. We're estimating right now that the MRPC will be able to kick into the in-kind program some DLTA funds, some local technical assistance funds from our assessment, as well as some in-kind and administrative funds. So we're hoping to maybe get $50,000 spread out over 2 years to that from the MRPC to match this thing. The final numbers we'll be working on. We're going to try and have a meeting at the beginning of next week with all our responses to discuss this budget and what we're looking at in terms of in-kind match from the communities themselves. Again, it could be anything from funds to in-kind services wherever needed. So the resolution requiring action is, be resolved that the Montezuma Regional Planning Commission supports the submittal of an application to the Safe Streets and Roads for All discretionary program for the development of a regional safety action plan. The MRPC supports the goal of 0 deaths and serious injuries on our regional and national roadways, and the development of this safety action plan will be instrumental in achieving that goal. The MRPC also affirms its commitment to helping to meet the 20% local match requirement through funds and in-kind services. And that's the resolution.
Very good. Any questions of Brad? If not, I'll entertain a motion to move the resolution.
So moved.
Okay, that's Peter Cunningham. Do I have a second?
Bob Swartz, second.
Okay, very good. Moved and seconded. Any questions before I call the roll? Okay, very good. Okay, Lynn Butland.
Aye.
Amanda Weed.
Aye.
Doug Thornton.
Aye.
Guy Corbacero, aye. I have a Jackie here that came in, but I don't have a last name. Okay, I'll move on. Jeff Bennett,
Yes.
John Telepiak,
Aye.
Peter Cunningham.
Yeah, Cunningham, aye.
Okay, Robert Schwartz,
Aye.
Roger Hoyt,
Aye.
and that is passed unanimously with one not voting because I did not get a response uh, from Jackie. So that passed the resolution. Okay, and that is the end of our agenda except for
Just,
new
excuse me,
business.
Mr. Chairman, just a couple of
Yes.
extra points. We have received letters of support from Leominster and Gardner, and I believe one should be coming shortly from Fitchburg. We've also gotten a couple from some of the smaller communities, Athol, Sterling, and Lunenburg, I want to believe. I have to double check that. But as I mentioned, most of the communities have responded positively, but there are a few that we still haven't gotten or heard from. And again, tonight it would be Groton and Phillipston. Basically, we also are put together a regional letter of support that's being sent around as a PDF or e-signatures from the remaining communities. So be on the lookout for that. That'll be coming around in the near future. It goes from one person, once they sign it, it gets forwarded to the next. So it may be a little while before it comes to your community. And if there's any questions about that or any of the letters of support or even what the whole program is about, feel free to give me a call or send me an email and I'll get back to you as soon as we can.
Yeah, I
Yes.
have a question, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, go ahead, Peter.
Yeah, Brad, did you reach out to the communities and just didn't hear back? Is that the problem?
We sent out letters and follow-ups. We did a brief 4 or 5 question survey, just basically informing them of the program and what we plan on doing, and if they're interested in being a part of it. So it's basically what we're looking for. It's a simple yes, we'd like to be part of the program.
Yeah, I know Groton does. I'll follow up with our town planner tomorrow, but I'm sure. When did that letter go out roughly?
We sent the original one out, I believe, early or mid-August, I would guess. Yeah, early August, I think. And I'm accepting them right up until submittal time, just so I can
I know we're
inform in
very
the application that everybody's on board.
and everything. So I'll make sure you get a follow up from Groton.
Okay, and if they need me to send it back out to them, just give me a buzz.
Yep. Thank you, Brad.
I'll check with Phillipston too. I haven't heard anything. I have a feeling that they feel they have no sidewalks, no traffic lights. They have very little things that actually could be improved. That might be why you haven't heard. I don't know, but I'll check into it.
The program is, again, to look at all road networks and reducing injuries and serious injuries and deaths on those roads. And it's look at all modes, pedestrian, bike, transit. With MART on board, we'll be looking at transit also. And again, what this program does is, in order to access implementation funds, so we need an action plan developed first. So that's what we're going for first, is that action plan. And the action plan will help identify strategies and potential projects and ways to score and prioritize safety projects. And then, so there might be something in a strategy developed that will help the smaller towns, because rural communities are also a focus of the program. You want to make sure funding gets out to the rural communities and they get a chance to address issues that they may have. So.
Sure. Like I said, I'll look in to see why. But sometimes that's the response I hear back is there isn't a sidewalk in town. And you're taking your life in your hands if you're going to ride a bike. Roads are just too rural.
Right. But there are issues on those roads that need to be addressed, whether it's advanced warning signs, improvements of the alignments, and those kind of things that can solve issues like that.
I said, I'll check into it. I'll see
Okay.
why there's been no response.
And again, if you have any questions, have them just get in touch with me.
Sure.
Great. Thank you, John. Thank you, Brad. Oh, okay. That's Jackie Doherty. And I was talking Jackie, but if everybody saw, I can't access her microphone. Okay, very good. That's all our business unless somebody has new business.
Mr.
Next
Chair?
item on the agenda. Yes?
I do have
Roger.
a question for Brad, if I may.
Yes.
Have you seen any rebound in the ridership on the commuter rail? And has it been affected by the T's shutdowns in Boston at all?
I would have to defer to George Cahaley, whether he's got any information on the ridership. He receives information and feedback from MBTA, but we don't.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the ridership is still very, very low since the pandemic. We still have only 10% of the pre-pandemic ridership using the system. There is no impact so far on the MBTA trains in our region.
Thank you.
Thank you, George.
You're welcome.
Okay, any other questions? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn in a second.
All for a motion that we adjourn.
Okay, Peter moved it. Do I have a second?
Bob Swartz, second.
Bob Swartz, second, and being a small meeting, I will call, if there's no objections, I will call this meeting adjourned at 7:49. Thank you very much, everyone.
Very good. Yeah. Good night, everyone.
Have a good
Good night.
night.
Thank you.
Good night.